Welcome back. Imagine two people. One earns $60,000 a year, drives a used Honda, invests consistently, and sleeps peacefully at night. The other earns $250,000 a year, leases a luxury SUV, constantly upgrades everything, checks the stock market every hour, and secretly worries about money every single day. Now here's the question. Who is richer? Most people instantly choose the second person. But what if I told you the first person might actually have more wealth, more freedom, and a better financial future? What if making money has far less to do with intelligence than you've been led to believe? What if the biggest factor determining your financial success isn't your salary, your education, or even your investment strategy? What if it's your behavior? Think about it. We live in a country filled with smart people. Engineers, doctors, lawyers, tech professionals, business owners, yet many of them struggle financially despite earning six figures. At the same time, there are ordinary people with average incomes quietly building substantial wealth. How is that possible? Why do some people seem to win financially even when they don't know every investing trick in the book? And why do others lose despite having access to unlimited information? The answer isn't found in spreadsheets, it isn't found in economics textbooks, and it certainly isn't found in the latest hot stock tip. The answer lives somewhere much deeper. It lives inside human psychology, inside emotions, inside habits, inside the stories we tell ourselves about money. And once you understand that truth, your entire relationship with wealth begins to change. That's exactly what today's book is going to change. Welcome to Daily Audio Insights. I'm your host, and today we're diving into Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book has become one of the most influential personal finance books in the world, selling millions of copies and reaching readers from Wall Street professionals to everyday families trying to build a better future. And the reason it matters so much right now in America is simple. In a world filled with inflation concerns, market volatility, rising living costs, and endless financial advice on social media, most people don't need more information. They need better behavior. That's what makes this book different. It doesn't teach you how to predict the market. It teaches you to understand yourself. And that lesson might be worth more than any investment strategy you'll ever learn. Let's begin. Most people believe wealth is created through intelligence. They assume that the smartest investor wins, the smartest entrepreneur wins, the smartest financial planner wins. But Morgan Housel presents a fascinating idea. Money isn't primarily a math problem, it's a behavior problem. Think about it. Almost everyone believes they're an above-average driver. Statistically, that's impossible, but human beings are naturally wired to overestimate their abilities. The same thing happens with money. Many people think they're making logical financial decisions. In reality, emotions are sitting in the driver's seat. Fear, greed, pride, envy, impatience. These emotions quietly influence nearly every financial choice we make. Consider an American worker named Jake. Jake works in software development. He earns a solid salary. He understands investing. He reads financial blogs. He listens to podcasts. On paper, Jake should be doing great. Then a market crash happens. Suddenly, his portfolio drops 20%. He panics. He sells. He promises himself he'll buy back later. Months pass. The market recovers. Jake waits. It rises more. Jake waits. Eventually, he buys back in at higher prices than where he sold. His problem wasn't knowledge. His problem was behavior. Now compare Jake to Sarah. Sarah knows far less about investing. She doesn't follow market news daily. She doesn't try to predict the future. Every month, she invests automatically into broad index funds. When the market drops, she keeps investing. When it rises, she keeps investing. Year after year, she remains consistent. 20 years later, Sarah ends up wealthier than Jake, not because she's smarter, because she's steadier. That's a powerful distinction. Financial success often belongs to people who can manage their emotions rather than those who can predict the future. Think about your own life. How many decisions have you made because of fear? How many purchases happened because you wanted to impress someone? How many opportunities did you miss because uncertainty felt uncomfortable? Money decisions rarely happen inside a perfectly rational laboratory. They happen during stressful mornings, busy workdays, family conversations, economic uncertainty, human emotions. And that's why understanding yourself may be more valuable than understanding the market. Because if behavior drives outcomes, then mastering your reactions becomes one of the highest return investments available. Here's another surprising truth. The world often celebrates visible wealth: the big house, the luxury car, the designer watch, the social media lifestyle. But visible wealth and actual wealth are not the same. In fact, they're often opposites. Most people spend enormous energy trying to look rich. Very few spend energy becoming rich, and that difference changes everything. Imagine you're walking through a wealthy neighborhood. You see million-dollar homes, luxury vehicles, perfect landscaping. Success appears obvious. But here's what you can't see: bank balances, investment accounts, retirement savings, financial freedom. The things that truly create wealth are invisible. Let's imagine two neighbors. Neighbor number one earns a high income and spends nearly all of it. Every raise becomes a larger mortgage. Every bonus becomes a new purchase. From the outside, life looks impressive. Neighbor number two earns less, drives a modest car, lives below their means, invests consistently. The lifestyle appears ordinary. 10 years later, who has more options? Who can leave a stressful job? Who can help family members during emergencies? Who can sleep comfortably? Most likely the second person. Because wealth isn't what you spend. Wealth is what you keep. That idea sounds simple, but it directly challenges how society measures success. We're constantly exposed to images of consumption. People show what they buy. They don't show what they save. Nobody posts a picture of their emergency fund. Nobody shows their retirement contributions on Instagram. Nobody gets attention for quietly investing month after month. Yet those invisible actions are often creating far more long-term prosperity than visible displays of success. Here's a question worth considering. Have you ever bought something partly because you wanted others to notice it? Most of us have. It's human nature. But here's the irony. People rarely think about us as much as we imagine. When someone sees your new car, they usually don't spend hours admiring you. Instead, they imagine how great they would look driving that car. They're thinking about themselves, not you. Understanding this can be incredibly liberating, because it frees you from spending money to earn approval that rarely arrives. And once you stop chasing appearances, you gain the ability to direct resources towards things that genuinely improve your life. Freedom, security, flexibility, time. Those are assets that never go out of style. Another powerful lesson from this book involves luck and risk. This concept might completely change how you view success and failure. Most people love simple stories. We want clear explanations. If someone becomes wealthy, we assume they did everything right. If someone struggles financially, we assume they made mistakes. But reality is rarely that simple. Life contains both luck and risk, and both play larger roles than most people realize. Consider two entrepreneurs starting businesses. One launches a company just before a major industry boom. The timing works perfectly. Demand explodes. Investors appear. Success follows. The second entrepreneur may be equally talented, equally hardworking, equally disciplined, but launches during a recession. Customers disappear. Funding dries up. The business struggles. Now, from the outside, observers often create simple narratives. One founder was brilliant. The other wasn't. But the truth may involve factors neither person controlled: timing,
economic conditions, random events, pure luck.
This doesn't mean effort doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. But it does mean humility matters too. When people become successful, they sometimes assume every outcome resulted entirely from their own skill. That belief can be dangerous because it creates overconfidence, and overconfidence often leads to unnecessary risks. Morgan Housel encourages us to recognize both luck and risk. When things go well, stay grateful. When things go poorly, avoid assuming you're doomed. Neither success nor failure tells the complete story. Life is more complicated than that. Think about the financial crisis. Think about the pandemic years. Think about unexpected layoffs. Think about sudden opportunities. Countless financial outcomes were shaped by events nobody predicted. Understanding this creates compassion. It helps us judge others less harshly, and it helps us avoid placing impossible pressure on ourselves. Because sometimes the goal isn't perfection. Sometimes the goal is survival. Sometimes the goal is staying in the game long enough for opportunities to appear. Here's an original insight inspired by this idea. Financial winners aren't always the smartest people in the room. They're often the people who stay standing long enough to benefit when luck finally arrives. Think about that. How many opportunities have appeared in your life simply because you didn't quit? How many doors opened because you remained patient? How many successes were impossible to predict beforehand? Sometimes persistence matters more than prediction, and that's a lesson worth remembering. The deeper you go into the psychology of money, the more you realize something surprising. Building wealth isn't about reaching a magical number. It's about building a life that gives you control over your time, your choices, and your future. And that realization leads us into one of the most emotional and transformative ideas in the entire book. The idea that money's greatest value has nothing to do with buying things. It has everything to do with freedom.
Freedom. It's a word we hear constantly. Political freedom, personal freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of choice. But there's another kind of freedom that quietly shapes nearly every aspect of life: financial freedom. And according to the ideas in this book, this may be the single most valuable thing money can buy. Not a bigger house, not a luxury vacation, not the latest technology. Freedom. Think back to a moment when you felt trapped. Maybe it was a job you hated, a difficult boss, a stressful commute, a financial obligation that kept you awake at night. The feeling wasn't really about money. It was about a lack of options, a lack of control, a lack of freedom. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up knowing you have choices. You can take time off if needed. You can leave a toxic work environment. You can support your family during a crisis. You can pursue meaningful opportunities without constant fear. That's what money can provide when used wisely. Not status, not attention, freedom. And freedom is one of the few purchases that tends to increase happiness long after the initial excitement fades. Many Americans spend years chasing higher income while unknowingly sacrificing the very thing they're trying to achieve. They work longer hours, take on larger financial commitments, increase expenses, upgrade lifestyles, and suddenly they discover something strange. Despite earning more, they feel less free. Imagine a young professional named Michael. Michael graduates from college and lands a great job. His income rises steadily. At first, life feels exciting. Then comes the bigger apartment, the luxury vehicle, the upgraded lifestyle, the expensive subscriptions, the larger monthly obligations. Each individual decision seems harmless, reasonable even. But over time, something changes. Michael realizes he can no longer easily walk away from his job. His lifestyle depends on maintaining his current income. His financial commitments have quietly become golden handcuffs. From the outside, Michael appears successful. Inside, he feels trapped. Now imagine another professional, Emily. Emily earns slightly less, but she saves aggressively, invests consistently, keeps her expenses reasonable, builds financial cushions. After several years, Emily has something incredibly valuable: options. If she wants to start a business, she can. If she wants to take a career break, she can. If she wants to move across the country, she can. Her money has purchased flexibility, and flexibility often creates a richer life than luxury. This idea challenges much of what modern culture teaches. We're often told success means upgrading everything. But what if true success means needing less? What if the person with fewer financial obligations is actually wealthier than the person with more possessions? What if freedom is the ultimate luxury? Think about that for a moment, because once you understand it, your priorities begin to shift. You stop asking, "What can I buy?" and start asking, "What freedom does this decision create or remove?" That single question can transform your financial future. Another fascinating lesson from the book is the power of compounding. Most people understand compounding in theory. Far fewer appreciate its emotional impact. Because compounding is boring, at least in the beginning, and that's exactly why so many people underestimate it. Imagine planting a tree. The first year, very little happens. The second year, still not much. The third year, growth remains modest. Many people become impatient. They want immediate results. They want visible progress. They want proof. But then something remarkable happens. Year after year, growth accelerates. The tree becomes larger, stronger, more impressive. Eventually, people look at it and say, "Wow, that happened fast." But it didn't happen fast. It happened slowly, then suddenly. Money works the same way. A young investor might save a few $100s each month. At first, progress feels insignificant. The account balance grows slowly. The excitement fades. Many people quit at this stage. They become distracted by shortcuts, get-rich-quick schemes, speculative investments, the promise of overnight success. But those who remain patient experience something extraordinary. Time begins doing the heavy lifting. Their investments start generating returns. Those returns generate additional returns. The snowball grows, and eventually the growth becomes almost unbelievable. Not because of brilliance, because of patience. One of the greatest misconceptions about wealth is that extraordinary outcomes require extraordinary actions. Often they don't. Sometimes extraordinary outcomes come from ordinary actions repeated consistently for a long period of time. Investing regularly, avoiding unnecessary debt, living below your means, remaining patient. None of these actions are particularly exciting, but together they can create life-changing results. This is one reason many wealthy people seem surprisingly boring financially. They're not constantly chasing opportunities. They're not reinventing their strategy every month. They're not trying to hit home runs every day. They're simply allowing time to work on their behalf. And time is one of the most powerful financial forces in existence. Imagine two investors. The first earns spectacular returns for a few years, but repeatedly jumps between strategies. The second earns solid returns consistently for decades. Who wins? Many people assume the first investor, but often it's the second, because consistency compounds, patience compounds, discipline compounds, good habits compound, even small decisions compound. Every dollar saved, every unnecessary expense avoided, every investment contribution, every year of patience, they all stack on top of one another, and eventually the results appear almost magical. But there's no magic, only time. This leads to another powerful emotional truth. Many people spend their lives comparing themselves to others, and comparison can quietly destroy financial progress. Think about social media. Every day we're exposed to carefully edited snapshots of other people's lives. New homes, luxury vacations, designer clothing, business successes, exotic experiences. It becomes incredibly easy to feel behind, to feel inadequate, to feel like everyone else is winning. But here's the problem. Comparison has no finish line. No matter how much you earn, there will always be someone earning more. No matter what you own, someone owns something bigger. No matter how successful you become, someone appears more successful. If your definition of enough depends on other people, you'll never reach it. And that's exhausting. Morgan Housel introduces a concept that might be one of the most important financial lessons you'll ever hear. Knowing when you have enough. Enough. Such a simple word, yet incredibly difficult for many people, because our culture constantly encourages more income, more possessions, more status, more recognition, more everything. But without defining enough, people often take risks they don't need to take. They gamble with what they already have in pursuit of what they don't need. And sometimes they lose both. Imagine a successful business owner. He's financially secure, his family is comfortable, his future is protected. Yet he continues taking larger and larger risks, not because he needs more, because he wants more. Eventually, one bad decision wipes out years of progress. The tragedy isn't that he failed. The tragedy is that he risked what mattered for something that didn't. That's a lesson many people learn too late. Knowing when enough is enough can be a superpower, because it protects you from greed, and greed often disguises itself as ambition. There's nothing wrong with ambition. Growth is wonderful. Achievement is wonderful. But when ambition becomes endless, satisfaction becomes impossible. Here's a question worth asking yourself. What does enough actually look like for you? Not for your coworkers, not for your neighbors, not for influencers online. For you. What level of income would allow you to live comfortably? What kind of lifestyle genuinely makes you happy? What financial goals truly matter? Answering those questions creates clarity, and clarity reduces the pressure to constantly compete. Because once you know what enough means, you can focus on building a life instead of winning a race that never ends.
Let's be honest. When most people think about money, they're not really thinking about money. They're thinking about what money represents: security, comfort, opportunity, respect, love, freedom, peace of mind. The numbers themselves aren't what matter. What matters is the life those numbers can help create. And that's why one of the deepest lessons from this book is understanding that money is a tool, not the destination. Think about how often people postpone happiness. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I buy the house. I'll be happy when I reach a certain income. I'll be happy when my investment account reaches a certain number. Years pass, goals are achieved, yet happiness remains just over the horizon, always one step away, always attached to the next milestone, the next achievement, the next purchase, the next raise, the next big thing. Does this sound familiar? Because it sounds familiar to millions of Americans. Imagine a man named Robert. In his 20s, he tells himself he'll finally relax once he reaches a six-figure salary. He reaches it. Then he decides he'll relax after buying a house. He buys the house. Then he decides he'll relax after paying off the mortgage. Then after reaching $1 million portfolio. Then after retirement. And suddenly, decades have passed. The destination kept moving, the goalposts kept shifting, and the life he was trying to enjoy remained permanently delayed.
Now, compare Robert to someone who views money differently, someone who understands that financial success should improve life along the journey, not only at the finish line. Someone who uses money intentionally, someone who values relationships, health, time, and experiences alongside financial growth. The second person may not always have the highest net worth, but they often end up with something equally valuable, a life they actually enjoy living. This lesson becomes even more important when we think about happiness. Many people assume happiness increases endlessly with income, but reality is more complicated. Yes, money can absolutely improve life. It can reduce stress, provide security, create opportunities, help families, support dreams. But beyond a certain point, happiness often depends less on income and more on how that money is used. Money spent trying to impress strangers rarely creates lasting fulfillment. Money used to buy freedom, time, experiences, and meaningful relationships often does. That's an important distinction because many financial mistakes happen when people confuse admiration with fulfillment. They chase what looks impressive instead of what feels meaningful, and those are not the same thing. Think about your own happiest memories. Were they really about expensive possessions, or were they about people, experiences, moments, connection? Most people discover the answer is surprisingly simple. The moments that matter most rarely come with price tags attached. A family gathering, a road trip, a conversation with someone you love, a personal achievement, a quiet moment of peace after years of hard work. Money can help create those moments, but money itself isn't the moment, and remembering that can completely change your priorities. Now let's talk about something every person experiences: regret, financial regret. The investment you didn't make, the stock you sold too early, the opportunity you missed, the purchase you wish you hadn't made, the decision that still bothers you years later. Most people carry at least one financial regret, maybe several. But here's an important insight. Every successful financial journey contains mistakes, every single one, no exceptions. The problem isn't making mistakes. The problem is believing mistakes disqualify you from future success. They don't. The most successful investors in history have made mistakes. The most successful entrepreneurs have made mistakes. The most successful business leaders have made mistakes. The difference is they continued moving forward. They learned, adjusted, adapted, and kept going. Financial success isn't built on perfection. It's built on persistence. Imagine a young investor who starts investing right before a market decline. The portfolio falls, fear appears, doubt appears, embarrassment appears. The investor feels foolish, feels unlucky, feels discouraged. Many people quit at this stage, but others stay. They continue investing, continue learning, continue improving. Years later, that early setback becomes little more than a footnote, a temporary obstacle in a much larger story. That's one reason long-term thinking is so powerful. It reduces the importance of temporary setbacks, and life is full of temporary setbacks. This brings us to one of the most powerful transformations described throughout the ideas of this book, the shift from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. Before this shift, every market drop feels catastrophic, every expense feels overwhelming, every financial decision feels urgent, every setback feels permanent. After this shift, something changes. You begin viewing money through a wider lens. You stop obsessing over daily movements. You stop reacting emotionally to every headline. You stop allowing short-term noise to dominate long-term goals. And with that shift comes something incredibly valuable: peace. Because financial peace doesn't come from knowing exactly what will happen next. Nobody knows that. Financial peace comes from knowing you have a plan, a process, a system, a set of behaviors that work even when uncertainty appears. And uncertainty will always appear.
The economy will change, markets will change, jobs will change, politics will change. The future will continue surprising all of us. But human behavior, human emotions, human psychology, those patterns remain remarkably consistent, which is exactly why the lessons in this book remain so valuable. Let's bring everything together. If there is one central message running through every chapter, every story, and every insight, it's this: financial success is less about what you know and more about how you behave. You don't need to predict the future perfectly. You don't need a genius IQ. You don't need secret investment strategies. You don't need to outperform everyone else. You need patience, discipline, humility, consistency, and the ability to make reasonable decisions repeatedly over long periods of time. Now, let's turn these ideas into practical action. Step 1. Track your spending for the next 7 days and identify one expense that's driven more by appearance than genuine value. Don't judge yourself, simply notice it. Awareness is the first step towards better financial decisions. Once you recognize where your money is going, you gain the power to redirect it towards goals that actually matter. Step 2. Increase your savings or investment contribution even by a small amount this week. It doesn't have to be dramatic, an extra $20, $50, $100. The amount matters less than the habit. Remember, wealth often grows through consistency, not intensity. Step 3. Write down your personal definition of enough. Be specific. What income level supports your ideal lifestyle? What financial goals truly matter to you? What are you actually trying to achieve with money? This exercise creates clarity and helps protect you from endless comparison. As we wrap up, let's remember the biggest lessons from today's summary. Financial success is less about what you know and more about how you behave. You don't need to predict the future perfectly. You don't need a genius IQ. You don't need secret investment strategies. You don't need to outperform everyone else. You need patience, discipline, humility, consistency, and the ability to make reasonable decisions repeatedly over long periods of time. So, the next time you feel pressure to keep up with someone else, the next time fear tells you to abandon your plan, the next time comparison convinces you that you're falling behind, remember this: financial success isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about building a life that aligns with your values, a life that gives you choices, a life that gives you freedom, a life that allows you to spend less time worrying about money and more time living. Because at the end of the day, that's what wealth is really for. Not to impress strangers, not to win competitions, not to chase endless status, but to create a better life for yourself and the people you care about most.
And that's a goal worth pursuing. If today's summary made you think differently, you're in the right place. At Daily Audio Insights, we break down the world's most powerful books so you get the wisdom without the weight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment telling me which lesson hit hardest, and I'll see you in the next one.